Gun violence may be consuming our country with multitudes of tragedies, but what will it really take to eliminate such violence? NRA's Wayne LaPierre said once that we can't lose precious time debating legislation that won't work. The problem with this editorial is that it doesn't really say if they're in favor of stricter gun control, but rather just ridicules the politicians in our society by saying that they aren't doing enough to prevent gun violence. I will first analyze the main claim of my editorial, and then the first, second, and third subclaims. So the main claim states that society and its leaders need to put more effort into eliminating gun violence. Looking at this claim, even though the efforts of American citizens and politicians to end gun violence hasn't subsided, restricting gun laws won't take away the violence. In the article, District Gun Laws Really Stop Gun Crime, it states that according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, while much gun violence is concentrated in gun-friendly states, Arizona and Alaska being a prime example, a good chunk of it also takes place in areas that restrict gun ownership like the District of Columbia. This is just one example of many more that support the idea that restricting gun laws will subsidize gun violence. So now that I've analyzed the main claim, I will analyze the first subclaim, which states that politicians would rather support an unconstitutional measure than set a law-abiding example of government responsibility. And this is a claim of policy because the word pronounced conveys a course of action in which some of the politicians in Missouri assert that all federal gun safety laws should be null and void. While it is up to our government leaders to set a good example to our citizens, it is also important for everyone to have the right to bear arms, which comes from our right from the Second Amendment. In a Fox News article titled "NRA Takes Aim at California Sweeping Restrictions on Gun Ammunition," it states that our right to keep and bear arms has never been as seriously threatened in California as it is today. After years of incrementally adopting gun control measures, this year the legislature decided to propose new laws, adopting everything on the gun ban lobby's wish list. This is a good example proving that people are unconstitutionally losing their rights to bear arms because the desire to eliminate violence is causing people to forget that we also need to consider them as individuals and what they are entitled to. So now that I have analyzed the first subclaim, I will analyze the second subclaim, which is that politicians are taking the easy way out. The editorial references to a conservative estimate from the Denver Post, stating that too many politicians prefer to blindly salute the Second Amendment rather than face the appalling costs of gun mayhem in communities such as Aurora, where the toll, apart from the loss of life, was $17 million for the needs of the survivors. The problem with this example is that it references just one event as the reason to say that politicians are taking the easy way out. It's not just politicians that are the ones who are taking the easy way out. In a blog post written by Oryx Cohen, who is the director of the National Empowerment Center's Technical Assistance Center, states that it seems that every time a terrible act like the one at Sandy Hook occurs, the blame game begins. And then he states that every single person that makes up this country is to blame for allowing these events to keep happening. And so now that I have analyzed the second subclaim, I will finally analyze the third, which states that what has been done to prevent gun violence is not enough. At the end of the editorial, it states that the actions of the Obama administration are modest compared with the overwhelming need for broad federal legislation. And this is a claim of value because the word "are" is used to convey an opinion. The statement is correct in saying that we need to accomplish more in order to reduce the gun violence, but the increasing of stricter gun control laws isn't the only way to eliminate the problem. Referring back to Cohen's blog post, he expresses different ways of preventing gun violence, other than gun control laws, such as not labeling people because of their mental conditions, etc., etc. Labeling is, in some ways, a more socially and scientifically accepted form of name-calling, which is a form of psychological violence. If we can make a conscious choice to not use these labels in our own lives, we can go a long way to stopping the violence. So coming to the end of this conclusion, I analyzed the three major subclaims along with the main claim of the editorial. which each has its own error in which combined they don't convey if the editorial board is for or against stricter gun control laws. If anyone reads this editorial, they will be able to see why. By analyzing the claims, it's difficult to figure out if they are in favor or disapprove of stricter gun control laws. So, instead of ridiculing our politicians, the editorial board should think hard about which side they would agree with because anyone can make a difference in this debate, even them.